All right, you know the old saying, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, if there was ever a time we could debunk that one, it may be after you hear this next story. It has to do with so-called too big to fail, the greatest theft the world has ever seen. A casino funded by taxpayers so that small, silly men can gamble wildly with your money in order to be rich for no other reason. But let's back up for a second. Go back about a year. The height of the financial meltdown. The big casino blowing up. In an effort to cover up their theft, Bank of America buys Merrill Lynch in what is now a very infamous deal. We later found out that the Bank of America purchase was one in which Bank of America failed to tell its shareholders, let alone the American public, how bad off Merrill Lynch was in that casino, and that Merrill Lynch executives were still going to collect $3 billion in winnings from playing in that casino, even as the taxpayer delivered $100 billion to Bank of America to do this. Remember how outraged we were about that? You can tell I still kind of am. About as outraged as a federal judge was last month when he threw out a settlement. They tried to settle offline between Bank of America and Merrill. A judge threw it out. He said, listen, it only imposed a $33 million fine on a multi-billion-dollar crime that was really funded through trillions out of the taxpayer. Shouldn't you be fined a bit more than $33 million for perpetrating a multi-billion-dollar theft using trillions of dollars in American assets? Now listen to this wrinkle. According to documents obtained by MSNBC, the Obama economic team knew about these shady dealings the entire time, including prior to their arrival in the White House. Remember, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner ran the New York Federal Reserve through the fall, and top economic advisor Larry Summers, in fact, was involved along with Geithner trying to help sell bank executives on the merger, and they even sweetened the deal. Geithner and Summers sweetened the deal by offering to absorb Merrill's losses in the gambling casino. Translation, we the taxpayers on the hook for another $45 billion in subsidies to Merrill Lynch, even as they knew $3 billion in false casino winnings were going to be paid to the Merrill executives. The House Oversight and Government Reform Committee has launched a full investigation into what happened here. They're going to hold a big hearing on the Hill tomorrow. The ranking Republican on the committee, California Republican Darrell, Issa, joins us now from Capitol Hill. And Representative, we are grateful for your attention to this critical matter in this country. What is the subject specifically of the hearing tomorrow? In other words, what information about this do you think you can find out?
Well, what we're going to try to do is put people on the record as to what they knew and when they knew it. Unfortunately, there is a high likelihood that that hearing tomorrow will be canceled. The Democrats do not want the subpoena request that we've been trying to serve for Countrywide to be brought up because they don't have the votes, quite frankly. Many of their Democrats want that subpoena, which is now part of Bank of America's greater problem, which is how many sweetheart loans were given to government officials by Countrywide, leading to their turning a blind eye on this before it ever happened. What we are doing is pouring over. I'm going to stop you, not because
what I think what you're saying is phenomenally important and also very complicated. People may not understand that Bank of America, in the height of all this, purchased a company called Countrywide Financial, and that Countrywide was one of the biggest originators and sellers of subprime loans, these cheap mortgages, where basically I would have somebody buying a house that can't afford it, being sold a loan by somebody who doesn't care whether they can afford it as long as they can collect a fee, who then takes the loan and jams it straight up. And you're saying that some of the government officials involved may have received sweetheart home loans themselves from Countrywide, which is now a division of Bank of America. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have the evidence that many received it, including members of Congress, Freddie and Fannie people, people throughout the industry that could turn a blind eye to this. It's probably one of the biggest causes of the whole debacle was who was allowing bad things to happen in the name of, well, they're just making a profit and nothing bad will ever happen. It's part of the greater Bank of America investigation. Clearly what you're teeing up, though, we want that hearing. We want to get people back, people who have, we believe, been disingenuous. We no longer say lie here in Washington, but
I say lie. Can I walk you through a couple of things here, and maybe you can correct me?
Thanks, Dylan.
My understanding is that The taxpayer is funding assets at the banks, either in public or in secret, Bank of America being a great example, that the banks are then going out and wildly speculating on the probability that a given real estate market or pension fund or whatever will be able to pay their bills. They're basically speculating on American businesses and American people's ability to pay their bills, and the more money they can speculate with, the more money they pay themselves.
Absolutely.
Why is that legal? And why is the taxpayer funding that? And why are we not able to get a hearing with Geithner, Summers, Paulson, and Bernanke to find out why this is legal and why they're delivering American money with no strings attached?
Well, you're absolutely right to be outraged. It's one of the reasons that the Government Oversight and Reform Committee is taking this on, even though Financial Services has been constantly saying, butt out, it's our jurisdiction, is that it's very clear that the relationship between financial services before and after the collapse was far too cordial. And when you look at influence peddling of members of government by Countrywide, it's pretty clear that you can't fix this if you don't always also reform government. Remember that it was government entities that turned a blind eye, and in the case of Freddie and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the fact is they're talking about trillions of dollars of known bad loans that they put onto your back, because those have full faith and credit of the American people, over $6 trillion worth of bad loans, and that's not even part of the number that is on budget today.
A couple of things we have to do to rectify this. One, we have to get back the money that was stolen. Specifically, the bank CEOs are the ones that create the decision, whether it's a Fannie CEO, Dick Fuld at Lehman Brothers, Stan O'Neill at Merrill Lynch, Angela Mazzillo at Countrywide. These are the men that made the decisions to assume massive risks that they could not afford to bear, for the simple reason that assuming a bigger risk allows them to make more money. The money they paid themselves was stolen from the American people.
You're absolutely right. And the important thing about the court decision was the judge wasn't rejecting $33 million. What he said was either this is too much for something that was not deliberate, or individuals should be held accountable. And we want to see money coming from individuals, because the $33 million was all from Bank of America. He wants to see individuals held responsible or cleared, and it's likely they will be held responsible.
And it is the bank CEOs specifically, not the employee. Even if the employees were making dirty money, if you want to call it that, they're participating in a system that is not of their own creation, and it's human nature. You'll do what you, again, if you can make money, I'll do it too, right? People go, they don't know what's going on, but the bank CEO knows what's going on. The bank CEO knows, says it's okay for you to take $1 trillion worth of risk, knowing that he only has $50 billion in the basement that is taxpayer sponsored. That is the crime, is it not?
Absolutely. Directors and officers of a company have a fiduciary obligation to the stockholders, and that's what the basis for the Security Exchange Commission settlement was. It's the reason the judge wants to see more disclosure. Is these people had an obligation to disclose honestly to the stockholders. They appear both not to have disclosed honestly and then covered up even additional events. Unfortunately, they seem to have covered it up with the aid of Secretary Geithner, Secretary Paulson, and others, and that's really what I believe we have to get to the bottom of. We can't have government blaming greedy corporate America and then being conspirators just because it serves their best interests.
Well, that to me is the cover-up, right? The greatest theft ever was assuming the risk that you can't afford. Then when it blows up and all of a sudden you have $50 billion, but you owe $24 trillion, you go to the taxpayer for $24 trillion to support the system, and you keep your money. And the TARP money is the cover-up. This is the cover-up. What can the American people do, Representative Issa, to support your efforts to get us a hearing, not only on Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, but with Geithner, with Summers, with Paulson, to find out why they were giving away taxpayer money behind closed doors with no strings attached?
Well, all they really need to do is contact their House members. The more they get contacted, the more they'll pressure the committees, ours and Financial Services, to do what's right, which right now they're stalling on to a certain extent. And I think the fact that Secretary Geithner is now in the crosshairs is causing people to say, oh, wait a second, that's too close to President Obama. But the truth is, President Obama is better jettisoning Geithner if he did wrong before he had this job than he is going along with him as he becomes discredited when he says TARP TARP money is important. The second thing is the American people need to say that TARP money, which I call walking around money, needs to be stopped. From now on, including the money that's still not given out, we shouldn't have the president showing up and saying, I'm adding it to this, I'm spending it here. It is truly slush money right now. It is long past the crisis, and we should be having votes and fair consideration on any of the taxpayers, or I should say money borrowed by from the Chinese, right, any of that money that we're giving out. Today, the president's in New Jersey announcing TARP money being used in a whole new way for small business. It's very clear that this has turned into campaign money. It's no longer appropriated funds for the appropriated purpose.
Two things, and I got to wrap this up. But why it is that the American people have to pressure their Congress to do what is right, which is to have an investigation as to why trillions of dollars in U.S. taxpayer money are given to casino gamblers to do whatever they want with, and then it's used for political purposes. That is beyond my comprehension. And again, anything you can do to get us a hearing so that we can find out why America's taxpayer money is being used to subsidize casino gambling as a lifestyle, and why Larry Summers, Hank Paulson, and Tim Geithner were able to do that is tremendously appreciated, Representative.
Well, we will get the hearing. We will get the subpoena. We're tenacious, even if we're the minority. And communication by all of your listeners to their members is the only thing you can do until the next election. Between elections, pressure from constituents, particularly to the Democratic majority, is the only thing that can cause them to do the right thing until there's an election. Members do fear elections when they've done the wrong thing.
And again, forget, this is not a left-right issue. This is a right-wrong issue. We deserve a hearing to find out why our taxpayer money is illegally being attached. Proprietary gambling trading is attached to taxpayer insurance. It's on the front of the New York Times today, and it continues to this day. Goldman Sachs is bigger than ever and has never made more money, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. And they got $8 billion from AIG, which we put into AIG as an insurance company that we'll never get back. Yeah. Absolutely. There's an awful lot of money that we need to follow, and follow we will.
Right. Let's get the hearing, and I suspect the rabbit hole runs deep, sir. Thank you very much, Representative Issa.